We have a new Star Wars Shatterpoint article and it's pretty interesting. It's detailing how you're actually going to win the game. However, it is possibly a little bit complicated and I am sort of struggling to understand it. However, thanks for the help of the Discord, I think we've got there. So this is the article Star Wars Shatterpoint missions. So there's two things to really be aware of here. There is something called momentum and then there is the struggle token. Momentum is pretty much going to fill up from your side. So if I was here, it would fill up from here and we would add more as I went. And then I would win the struggle if this cube here hit my stone. Then I will have won that round. That phase, I think they're calling it. They do talk about some of the missions. So here they show basically what you're going to do is you're going to plant some objectives on the table and only certain ones are going to be active. So in the first phase, in the first round, it's going to be these ones active. Then they have this card. I'm struggling a little bit with this card. I think this is mainly dealing with how you actually place them in the first place. It does talk about how they shift and how you roll a dice, but it doesn't necessarily seem to lead on to this card. I'm struggling a little bit here to understand the context of this card, but I'm guessing this is how you place the tokens, and then in this moment here, in this mode here, there's a special thing which I don't necessarily think we have enough details to fully understand. So basically in phase 1 of the struggle, it's going to be obvious what everything is. You already know before the game starts, like that's already set, and that's how you're going to get your card. In phase 2, things sort of change and it becomes a completely different kind of game. Which objectives become active change. In this case, for example, it's actually the player who lost the first struggle gets to pick which objectives they want to be the main ones in the second struggle. Now it does say be prepared to climb, jump and hurdle over terrain to get to the points. The action starts quickly. Now you do gain momentum, and I'm not 100% sure where it says this, but you do gain momentum by wounding enemies. Pretty standard one there, right? But there are also character special rules that will also allow you to gain momentum. And the momentum adds on to your side, and then it makes it easier and easier to win the whole struggle. Now in theory, it's best out of 3. So they say it is, but it's also not quite. Nothing is fully reset in terms of the positioning of your characters. Where they end the phase is where they will be when the second phase starts. All that changes are the objectives. Now there's an interesting question here is how will they stop snowballing? I'm not 100% sure they have a means to do that in what we've seen here, but I'm sure something will come along and it'll make sense. The one thing that they did say was obviously the person who lost that first phase, they have a say in the second phase. So that gives them some kind of advantage, right? So it will stop the snowballing a little bit, but is there any other game mechanics that will do that? I'm not 100% sure. And as I said, it's literally the first person to win 2 phases that wins the game. So to reiterate, you're going to gain momentum and it's going to add up on your side. So if we were this player here, we would have 1 black momentum token here right now. Then the more momentum we got, the more it would add up. And then there's a little clear cube that basically is the struggle tracker. That will go to either side depending on what's happening in the game. I'm guessing the idea is that this is going to swing back and forth sort of quite quickly depending on what objectives and stuff like that you're scoring, and then whoever's got the most momentum just makes it easier for them to finish the job. And interestingly, the more momentum you get, the closer you get to the end of the game no matter what. So it's a pretty interesting system, right? There is an interesting symbol on the cards, but I'm not sure if that actually means anything. I'm not sure if these lights here mean anything either. It's really hard to say what combination of these missions you'll actually be playing. If I'm honest, I find this whole article a little bit confusing. I think the core of it is that system that I mentioned. You're going to add momentum, the struggle tracker is going to go to either side. Whoever hits the tokens and gets the struggle tracker to hit their momentum, they win that phase. If nobody has won 2 phases by that point, you start another phase. That basically makes it best out of 3. However, like they say here, it's actually not fully reset. Your players and your wounds and everything like that stay where they are. Just a new struggle begins, and that struggle changes on its missions, right? So in the example they give, the player who lost the previous struggle, they can pick which new tokens are now active. So obviously if all my people were on this side of the map, then I would pick this one rather than that one. So it's going to give an advantage to the person who lost, which makes sense. I think that's fine. But it also sounds like there's going to be a lot of movement in this game, and I'll be interested to see how that actually works. A bit of a weird article because it's a little bit hard, I think, to just take what they've written and to put it into some kind of actual meaningful way of how the game will play. I don't necessarily know if we have enough info to do that, but it is fascinating to read and hopefully it'll actually make for a good game. It sounds good. As I said, my main concern is just worrying about somebody dominating and then not being able to get back into the game, but it sounds like they're at least aware of that and will do something to stop that. Not my favourite article simply because I'm a little bit confused. Maybe I'm just not that smart, which is, well, a fact, to be fair, but I don't think it's necessarily very intuitive. I think once you've played a game, it'll absolutely just click and you'll make perfect sense, right? But I think reading an article, not that obvious. Let me know your thoughts in the comments though. I think it's an interesting system, excited to see it played, but yeah, not really a fan of seeing it like this. I think I'll probably wait for the Adepticon where we actually get to see gameplay. Think it will all then click and everybody will make a lot more sense, right? Let me know your thoughts though. Have a most beautiful day, like and subscribe. Goodbye.